Nola's introduction into the show really made me want that. To me, it treated this like a backdoor pilot to if we ever get the Power UK spinoff. I want her, and I want that man, Killmonger. Here's the thing with me. She didn't. She to me was not a villain in this episode. She came in as this was my fiance. Y'all stole my ring. Y'all killed my main, not even my main fiance, dude, man. My whole thing with the drug. We saw how because he was connected with the informants and the fact that he was connected to the police, he kept the rivals away. So he did a lot more than just here selling some drugs. He did everything. So I would like to see what their enterprise setup looks like in the UK. What is that going to be? And also, she is not the villain. She came in there looking for answers. She's very direct. And you can kind of view this as the Thanos or the king of the power universe because they weren't villains either. They did what they thought was right. And with her, she thought she was being wronged. So she came to protect that. Even when her first thing when she came in was, why are you in this dude, my fiance's penthouse months after he died? Do you know how insulting that is to see somebody sit there and throw a party as if it's like a celebration and yet you're still in mourning? She did her mourning, and I know it's not fair to say I wish it was like because people grieve differently, but I kind of wish it was like I wish Monet would have had that same kind of reaction to when Zeke died. In terms of that sulking, we got more of a taking more control approach because she took full control. And if you're really going to place blame on anything, it's Davis who is the catapult to this whole thing and this whole season. If you really look at it, he was the one who fenced the diamond. He wasn't acting on behalf of Monet or Tariq. His greed, and we talked about greed when they was in the classroom, his greed had him steal that diamond and to sell it at, what was it, Seville's, which is basically like a Sotheby's or a Christie's. So this is all his doing. And this made me really want to see whether or not there's going to be a showdown between him and Monet. Noma, sorry. And another thing regarding Effie, I just wanted to say really quickly, if Effie gave an interesting dialogue where she explained how school is expensive for her, right? She has the tuition, she has the books. We have the situation where she has to borrow the books from the TA because she simply cannot afford it. And I'm not saying that this is something that someone is obligated to do, but it would have been nice if Tariq and all of his possession of money, then how he can get it quickly, he would at least give Effie. Here's a little bit of change. Now, she has the right to refuse it, but it would have been the thought that counts. If you see my boyfriend has a whole bunch of money and he don't break you off just a little bit so that you can somewhat survive. Because remember, they was counting change when it came to getting the water at the student, what was that, student lounge? Unless I'm mixing things. I'm mixing things. We'll edit that out. The point is, she does not have money. I did it again. She does not have money, and so help her. And then also another thing with the ring, I want to know when Noma got notification of when the ring was being moved and sold. We don't know the history of that ring or when it came into possession because to us it seemed like he brought that ring for Monet. For my correction, right? Because it was in the finale. So we need to know the history of the ring because she thinks that it's hers.
Oh yeah, yeah. That could be another like thing that intensifies the beef between them. Like if that ring comes into play, if she sees her with that ring, she might recognize
and then
it.
it also, so how many wives or other women does he have? Because if he is he just picking up wives at any state he drops into? or any country because she was about to be the fiance. She was the other girl was the fiance. Is it a sister wives situation?
I think the answer to that is Mecca is a very resourceful individual. So he keeps all options open, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of immortalizes Mecca's character a bit because now we see that he had some deep secrets, that we didn't even see at all. Like, and we know that what was the big twist about him? Like he was a government agent or informant or something like that.
Yeah, he was an informant.
He was the informant. He was the informant.
Yeah, he was an informant. So like, yeah, it's like he's got all these different connections and ties and things. So it kind of makes it makes his character a bit more interesting even after death, and having the new kind of antagonist be tied to him, I think was a good move because then Noma automatically kind of gets some of that steam from Mecca because he was a great antagonist for the show last season. So
he was a pure villain. Even after death, he's the villain. And also, if those who don't know what sweat equity is and why Bash was so angry about it, it was basically, say you have a startup company, right? And you'll take a lower salary with the hope that the company skyrockets and improves. So therefore, you will get a stake of the company, which is why a lot of people really got a huge payout when Facebook became really big and they left their job was because they owned stake in the company as opposed to here is this big salary. So you have to wait a while to see a return. If you even do see a return, it's a lot riskier, which was why Bash was very insulted by that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of glad they got that character out of there because that was an annoying character. Like, so I'm kind of happy they got rid of him. But it does make me wonder if we're gonna see Simon Stern ever again, though. If he's gonna make a return.
He has to, because here's the thing. Even though it was perceived that Bash, what was it? They said Bash stole Stern's money and fled the country. That still is his son. So even though it may look like, oh, he fled, I think he will feel that something is wrong and will start probably looking for answers.
You said son, you mean partner, right?
Partner.
Yeah.
What is it? Yes, sorry, partner. Son of partner.
Yeah, very interesting. So I do have some questions, and I know Dana has a question actually as well. So let me get through a couple of these, and then I'm gonna head to Dana and get her question also, because we're having some great discussion already. So we're gonna get right into this. So which one do I start with actually? Okay, so since we're already on the subject of Noma, so I guess we kind of already talked about this, but so do you think she is going to be a mainstay villain for the series now? Like, because previously, we had we had like plugs and connects that kind of come into power for a season and then get taken out, and then somebody else comes. It happened with Mecca. It happened with what's his name, the Serb guy in the original Power. We've had a lot of connects come and go basically, but I could see her, being around for a long time in this show. And then, if they do the Power spin-off as well, she could be like the main catalyst for that. If they do the UK spin-off, like it was rumored or whatever. So, but yeah, do you think she's just here for the moment and she will get killed off? Or do you think she is going to be around for a very long time now? What do you think about that, Dana?
Sorry, that's actually a really hard question. Because to me, she's not the villain of the show. If I was writing this, I would want them to, at the very end, for her to last 2 seasons, at most. I don't need her to be a staying part of this. At most 2 seasons, but I want that end credit scene with her, maybe shaking Tariq's hand or somebody's hand, and then she goes off to the UK. Boom, and then we have UK power. So that to me, I don't want her to die. I want everyone come to an understanding. They do their part, she does her part, and that's it. She leaves them alone. And if there's ever an opportunity, maybe a couple seasons later, there's a little crossover episode where they go to the UK. So I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I don't feel that she is someone who needs to stay long term. She came in there with a purpose. This is my product. Move it. And that's it. It wasn't like, I own you for life. It was move it. You have 30 days to figure this out. And that should be the end of it.
Okay. So I wanna go deep with you for a sec. So like, because I find your take about her not being the villain very interesting. And there is a lot of validity to that, because you can argue that all of these characters are bad people. So, what makes her the villain, right? So like that is a good take to have, but I want to just go deeper with you and say, like, is there a character you then do think is the real villain of this show then? Or, is there somebody else that you would actually categorize as the villain?
Again, it goes with perception, because if you look at it as Monet looking at it, it would be when she finds out that it's Tejada, Lorenzo, it would be Lorenzo. He's the villain of it, even if but then to other people, it would be Monet, Dennis Davis. But I don't feel that there is a solid villain right now. I feel that these are all people who are giving motive to the show, to the plot. But for someone to come out right, be like this evil, like for example, Lamar from BMF, to me, he was a villain. They could even argue, oh, he's trying to be a father to his daughter. But at the end of the day, his actions still made him villainous. From what we've just seen, and this is just one episode, she has not reached that status yet, and unless she does something really grimy. I can't see her being all out villain. There's too much. She has so many textures to her story, and there's still so many unknowns about her past. I can't see that. And for right now, I can't, unless you want to argue that it would be Jenny and Blanca and maybe Whitman. They're the villains because they're trying to take down the whole, they view it as an enterprise. They're trying to stop Tariq from surviving, as well as the entire family, the Hadas, Braden, everyone. And there could be casualties because of their willingness to get him so much. And we know Blanca carries over from the original power. She just won't go away. So to me, it would be those three who would be the actual villains. But of course, they don't view themselves as being the villains. They view everyone else as the villains. But for me, because the main protagonist of the show is Tariq, and they're trying to stop him, those are the villains.
Okay, that's interesting. And yeah, I can see, because when you're dealing with a cast of bad people, I guess it's hard to, really label, like, maybe villain's the wrong word, maybe like villain is the wrong word for Noma, but I do think she kind of is an antagonist of sorts, not necessarily a villain, but an antagonist. And I say that just because she's forcing everyone to do things they don't want to do currently, like, because, they didn't want to operate under her and sell, the drugs for her. Specifically, some of them actually wanted to get out the game. So I think just based on that, and then also she killed the innocent people at the start, but that was because of, she feels that she's been wronged, of course. So like you said, there's motive. There's motive there. So
those two didn't have to die. They could have been bashed up the head. And even if you just left it at cutting off her hand and then like giving the guy a good punch, you could have still been all right. But then they saw your face, and then that's complicated. So yeah, in that sense, they would be a villain. But I just thought it was a really great entrance.
but then you could say Tariq's a villain because like technically Sebastian could be an innocent. So it's the term villain that's kind of iffy, I guess. But yeah, good. That's a good perspective, though. I want to hear what people think. Rich, do you have any thoughts on? So the question we're on is about Noma, and if you think that she's a mainstay villain, but you could also chime in on the villain thing too. Like whether you think there is a villain or whatever. So let us know your thoughts.
Well, I think both you and Dana made great points. I could understand why we wouldn't look at her as a villain. We just look at, like Dana said, this is somebody who is just coming back to get what she feels is rightfully hers. So I'm totally okay with that. To answer the question, though, Gary, you did say something earlier that I thought was very interesting that I do want to point out, is that obviously Mecca is no longer a part of the show, right? But this character had a ton of secrets. We know that he was an informant. So by him being alive, he kept a lot of things at bay. The fact that this character, Noma, now comes out of the blue and was coming back for what she feels is hers, I think is important. But it also makes me feel as though there could be other people coming back because of a debt that maybe Mecca owed to them. So to answer your question, I think the character is going to be around because I think that there's going to be some people coming back to get what they feel is theirs as well. And who knows, she may have to deal with those people as well. Maybe she may need the assistance of Tariq or the Tejadas or somebody else to help deal with whatever the other threats are. Because as you both pointed out, while she does have those people that are working for her that are very skilled, I do think there could be something coming that they don't anticipate. Because at this point, they've told us that Noma, she takes charge. She's going after for what she wants. And she was the one that was a surprise to all of us that came out of nowhere and is now coming back to take control. So for her to be surprised by someone else that Mecca didn't tell her about, I think that's a possibility. But to answer the question, I do feel as though she's going to be around. I agree with what Dana said. I want to see them expand this into the UK because I do know that the people over at Starz, at least the people who are higher up, they do want to explore having some type of UK presence with the show. I don't know how they get there, but introducing this character lets me know it is possible. So we'll see what happens. But no, Dana, you had a question, so go ahead.
I was thinking, so you know the term eye for an eye? I was wondering, the fact that Zeke was kept from Zeke was kept from the dude who died, Dante. So the fact that he was kept from Dante and the fact that he really wasn't told that is your son, and she made up all of these lies involving Zeke, would it be karma that now Noma is coming back? I'm the fiance. And now the kids will be involved in this situation. Had Monet told the truth from the beginning, all of this would have been kind of kaput. And instead, so Dante's thinking, well, you didn't tell me about my son. I'm not going to tell you about my fiance. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, that's a good point. This kind of is karma because the same way, like at the moment, Lorenzo, he's kind of, he's trying to keep the secret that he killed Zeke. It's like, Monet it all comes down to what Monet did before because she kept the fact that Zeke was, Mecca's child a secret. So a lot of this is kind of, a reflection of like her actions, like what she did kind of led up to this, and this, you could argue that this is karma for her, her kids now selling all the drugs for Mecca's real, fiance. So yeah, you could make that argument that this is.
So then therefore she's the real villain. She's the real villain of the show.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who feel like that. It's like, remember in the first season, we all thought she was the villain. So there's a lot of people who still feel that way, that she is the real antagonist of the show. So yeah. could be that. And that's why I'm so interested to see when Monet and Noma actually meet, like, because it's clearly two, very domineering, controlling, women. So that's going to be an interesting interaction, I think.
I agree. I just will make a comment. I agree with both of the points that y'all said, but I will say this. I think Lorenzo was on borrowed time. That character will get taken out at some point this season because once she finds out he has something to do with Zeke, that situation, and obviously that is also an interesting dynamic in and of itself because Diana has the strongest bond with him. She already has a rocky relationship with her mother. So I will be very curious to see what happens if she does succeed in taking out Lorenzo. I mean, it's a lot of complexities that are going to be very interesting to see how they handle that from a storytelling standpoint. So we'll see what happens.
To me, it feels like she hates her kids. She legit hates her kids and she wished they were never born. That's just the vibe she gives off. I've never seen her look lovingly at her kid. It's always...
It does feel that way, and it also feels as though all of a sudden, all this emotion for Zeke in this episode is like, yeah, it does feel like she has put him on a higher pedestal than the others. Obviously, he's dead, so I understand her being sad about that, but it does feel as though, just like when we've seen in the past seasons, he's going to the NBA, he's got to be successful. It's like she really put her emphasis on him and not so much her kids. So I agree with that 100%.
But then this makes me wonder.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it just made me wonder whether or not Monet even loves Tejada, because it seemed to me like, how you could say like a kid is a reflection of their father. So the fact that she put Zeke on such a high pedestal, she was always there for him. I was wondering if she was projecting the love that she had for Dante onto him. And so the way how she treats the other kids, it's kind of this animosity and anger towards them from season 1. So I wonder if she's projecting those feelings that she actually has for Tejada onto them.
Let me just say a quick comment. I do agree. That's a very good point. I do think that she, even if she does not love them the same way she loves Zeke, she still has compassion for them because we know, like I said, if something was to happen to them, she will be impacted by that. Like you saw when, when it felt as though they, something could have happened to Kane. If something happened to Kane, if something happens to Diana or Drew, especially with the Drew character, because we already saw that he already was involved in that shootout in the previous season. So I kind of feel like if something was to happen to them, she's still going to be concerned about that. But obviously, she has a very special place in her heart for Zeke. With how she reacted to him getting killed. So yeah, it's a complicated thing to have. It's complicated to really describe, but I kind of feel like she still would care about if something bad happens. She doesn't want to see anything bad happen to any of them. But Lorenzo, this guy is in trouble.
Yeah. Just to answer that question quickly, because I feel like they say that, whenever parents have, kids, like if they have a few kids, like, 3 or more or whatever, like they love them all equally, but there's always that one that they have a very soft spot for. And I feel like with Monet, it definitely was Zeke. Now, how much of that was because of the fact that she was trying to keep the situation secret too, that could have a lot to do with it also, where she was kind of giving him extra attention so that, to compensate, I guess, for the lies and stuff. And, some of that could also be because they did portray Mecca as being like her childhood love kind of thing in the last season. So I guess like Dana, like you were saying, Dana, like that could be part of it too, where she's projecting that, childhood love that she had for Mecca onto him also, because she knew the truth all along that he was his child. So yeah, I think there's a lot of layers there, but she definitely had a soft spot for Zeke over the rest, I think.